why not just make a vlog of reading all of my book club books? They elect someone to be a regent in the human world. Why? Why is that a thing? There was a lot of wordiness when it came to Blair and how she described things. If Haley does come out with another book, I want to kind of compare the two and kind of see where her voice is. Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Almost just dropped my Kindle there for a second. But today what we're gonna be doing is I'm a part of some book clubs online, specifically through like Fable and like Patreon and such as well. And I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to fit all of these books into vlogs. Then I just realized, why not just make a vlog of reading all of my book club books? So that's what this vlog is going to be doing. So I have 3 books in line, but I'm not going to tell you what they are just in case they like don't end up at the end of the video, because sometimes I find myself being like, oh, I'm going to read this, and then I only maybe end up reading like 2 or maybe even just like 1 of those books that I mentioned at the top. So the first book that I am like picking up and have already like picked up, I'm like 16% into. I started it last night, but it is A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. So I'm a part of Ellen Catherine's Patreon and such, and this technically isn't really a book club book. It's more of like a series read-along type of book. So we have like a Discord or whatever, and we can talk about this book in that Discord and such. This month is the first book in the Compelling Fates saga, which is this book that I obviously mentioned. It's right here in the corner as well too, and it's fantasy, of course. She is mostly like a romance slash romantasy reader. She like proclaims herself to be like mostly romance, but she has been loving romantasy as of recently. And you guys know that I've been trying to get into the fantasy slash romantasy like genre and kind of figuring out what I like and what I don't like and such, like with like all that other stuff. And this one, we're following this girl named Alyssa. What's her name? I don't remember what her name is off the top of my head. Whenever I tell people or try and tell people who this girl is, who we're following in this book, I can never remember. Alicia, I think is how you pronounce her name. But basically, she's half fae, and like she has the power basically to control people or compel people just by looking into their eyes and such. And she does something really, really bad that gets her thrown into the king's dungeons. Then she makes a oath with him. I think it's a blood oath technically, for like to negotiate for her release or whatever, you know. But it's been 5 years since then, and she has lived in the human realm for like those 5 remaining years. Then where we're at in the book, the king just called upon her blood oath in her favor and such. And basically what she needs to do is, within the human world, they are having these elections pretty much, kind of like the equivalent of like a presidential election in a way, but I'm guessing there's going to be maybe like trials and things like that and such. So she's running for that. But the reason why she's running for it is because the king basically told her that she has to. He wants her to get information just in case that there's like a, like, what is it? A war that could be potentially happening again. And there was a war before this as well too that devastated the lives of like millions within this world, which I cannot remember where we're at honestly, or what this world is called. But like I said, I'm like 16% into it. Can't really tell you that much about it. But yeah, that is the first book that we are going to be reading. I'm hoping to do a little bit of a time lapse and such, check in at halfway, and then either do another time lapse or doing my final thoughts and such. But yeah, we shall see. I am going to go do some stuff, and then I'm going to read a little bit of A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly. afternoon, friends, or whatever time you're watching this little update, or just whatever, honestly. I'm coming in to check in that I have made it exactly 50%, well, 51% into A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. And surprisingly, I'm really kind of liking this. I don't really have any emotions leaning towards one side or the other, to be honest with you. And I can't remember if I talked about what this book was about in the beginning, but just quick little recap. You're following this girl named Lesia. She's half Fae, and when she was in the Fae realms, she did something that was really, really kind of bad, pretty much. It got her thrown into the king's jail. Then she made a blood bargain with him, I believe, to where she lives in the human realms now, and the king's calling upon that blood bargain. She basically has to infiltrate the human elections that are going on and things like that. And right now, where I'm at in the story, we are right in the smack dab middle of the election season kind of happening, and the different challenges that the different people go through. It's called a regent, is what they're electing for, pretty much. Every 5 years they elect someone to be a regent in the human world after this royal family basically fell after the devastating war between the Fae and the humans as well too. So we're following from there, and I will say I don't really have too many thoughts. Like I said, I don't have too many thoughts. I will say I like Lesia as a character, and I feel like I find myself in these types of fantasy novels, I find myself hating the female character because she's so weak and she's so fragile and things and such like that. And granted, Lesia before this book, she was definitely fragile, but she's definitely grown, and she's so much stronger than so many people give her credit for. And I feel like we need more of those stronger individual women, especially within these types of fantasy genres, pretty much. And I am enjoying this story. I will admit that I am very much enjoying the story, but also at the same time, I don't have anything else to talk about with the plot. The writing is good in my opinion, a little bit on the nose sometimes, specifically because well, actually, now that I think about it, I do have one qualm with this book, and it's the fact that we get teased about what Lesia did over and over and over again in each chapter, and it's yeah, I get it. Will you show us what she fucking did, I get that it's build up, but if you do it, there's a certain line, in my opinion, that authors need to ride when it comes to over explaining versus under explaining. And right now with Lesia's thing and what got her landed in the dungeons in the first place in the Fae realm is very just it's so much that I'm literally just okay, I get it. I find myself skimming over those bits within the passage itself. So that's the only thing that I'm not really liking about this book. If I were to rate it right now, I think it would be a 3.5, maybe 3.75 if we're being kind of specific. I'm not really feeling 4 stars from this right now, but maybe I could feel 4 stars energy from this. But right now I am not really too sure exactly what I'm feeling with this, besides just things happening. I will say there has been some action, there has been a little bit of sabotage and things like that of the election itself, but overall nothing too dramatic has happened. And I will say I can see the enemies to lovers building up in this story, and this is a 4-book series, I believe. It's the compelling phase saga by her, and the way that they're building up the enemies to lovers, I think it's going to be enemies to lovers, but I don't know if this is fantasy or romantasy, whichever category it leans into as well. But yeah, with this one, solid 3.5, 3.75 if we're gonna be super duper specific. But right now, since I'm only halfway, I might continue on with this series, but I can probably tell you officially at the end what my thoughts are on this. So yes, that's all I have to say on A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. And I'm going to turn this off and then read a little bit more. I'll probably take you guys with me when I'm finishing up maybe the last 10, maybe 15% of this book, but we shall see. Interesting. I'll be right back. Hello again, my friends. I'm coming with my final thoughts on A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. And I actually was worried that I wasn't too sure what my rating was gonna be, but if I'm gonna be super specific on this rating, it is a 3.75. Now, I will explain why. I'll start with kind of the structure of the book, and keep in mind, I'm newish to the fantasy genre, so I'm kind of getting the idea of how these books are supposed to be structured and things like that, but the beginning definitely hooked me, and as I was going throughout the actual book itself, the beginning more intrigued me than the end of the book. I will say I did get a little bit stressed kind of near the end. I don't know if y'all can see that in the time lapse when I was first finishing out the book, but I don't know why. By the end, I did care, but I wasn't really on the edge of my seat of really caring about what happens to these characters, especially after this first book ended. And I think one of the main things that's kind of keeping me from it is so many of the different fantasy, specifically romantasy type of things that low-key kind of give me the ick. I don't know what it is about fantasy/romantasy writers, but always adding in, especially when it comes to fae fantasy, always adding in the fact that someone growls. Why? Why is that a thing? I get that they are supposed to be magical creatures and things like that, but why are you adding in the fact that she's growling here, he's growling there, there's a low growl from his chest or her chest or whatever? I don't get that aspect personally. So that's what kind of took it down a little bit for me personally. I will say this is one of the more better fae fantasies that I have read, and the only ones that I really remember reading is the ACOTAR series, and I hate that series, honestly. I don't plan on continuing the series. I don't really care for the series. The books no longer exist on my shelves. Still need to get rid of those. But with this one, it wasn't that bad of a read. I mostly listened to it because I find I grasp the world a little bit better when I listen to fantasy books rather than reading them normally and such. So that's really one of the things that really irked me about this story. And do I plan on continuing the series? Honestly, yes. It was very entertaining. I don't know if I will give it a higher rating in the future. It is a read-along book with Ellen Catherine's Patreon girlies and such. So even though this wasn't a book club book, we got the first book of this vlog done. Again, 3.75 to be uber specific because it was an interesting story. And I do like the fact that our main character, Lesia, she wasn't completely naive. She was naive to certain things, but she wasn't a complete pushover when it came to certain things. Oh, and I just remembered why also the rating kind of lowered a little bit for me is because the way it ended is not a bad thing. It makes complete sense to why it ended in the way that it did, but specifically what Lesia said to a character within this, I was just girl, why are you asking him for validation? Like, or validation, whatever it's called. But yeah, that's the first book of this vlog done. And the second book that I am planning on picking up, that I think everybody within the community that has been in the writing space or even reading space know about, but that is Just Friends by Haley Pham. This is her debut novel. I feel like everybody has been talking about this, so I really am gonna not go into too much detail. But basically, it follows Blair and Declan, who were basically inseparable growing up. They were like such like good best friends, but then they decide to like take their step from friends to a little bit more of a romantic place, and then something happens. And then after that, 4 years later, Blair is back in her hometown to support her mom and her great aunt, who she sees as a second type of like mother figure, and she works at a coffee shop to make ends meet, and then she realizes that it is managed by Declan. So their friendship kind of starts up again, and we kind of follow from there. I have heard so many mixed feelings on this book. I'm keeping my thoughts open and things like that. It's not that big of a book either. I will say it is one of the most like gorgeous books that I think I've ever seen. I know that a lot of people like comparing like her writing style a little bit to Emily Henry, Marley McFarlane, and a little bit of Kayleigh Bradley, I believe is her name, the woman who did The Ministry of Time and such. But yeah, I've got some stuff that I need to do in the afternoon, but I might start reading a little bit of Just Friends, and we shall see how far I get into it. I'm gonna try just reading it like by itself with like music and not like the audiobook, because something I've been like trying to move away from is doing too many audiobooks, because granted, audiobooks are easy for me to consume, especially with me still holding another job besides doing this as well to make some more money. But I feel like I haven't physically read a book in such a long time that I figured it's a romance book. I can kind of know a little bit about Haley's style and how she would write things, and I'm just curious to see what this story is about. The cover is gorgeous. It is one of those things where it is something that everybody wants to hear and see about, including me. And I kind of want to jump on the bandwagon because it is one of those things where so many people have so many thoughts and mixed feelings on that. And even though that this is her debut novel, if she does decide to write more books in the future, I really hope she does, because I think, granted, some people just want to write one book and then be done with it, but also I would also love to see her growth and progression as an author as well too. But anyways, I'm gonna stop talking for now, and I will come back to you guys with either a time lapse of me starting this book or being a little bit more into the book itself, and then I will come back with my halfway check-ins of this book. Again, my friends, I'm coming with my halfway check-in of Just Friends by Haley Pham, and I'm torn on this. I'm not gonna lie. I will admit a lot of things in here are good, but also some of it is not always the greatest. Specifically, I'm going to talk about some stuff, like I've exactly made it halfway through Just Friends. I'm on chapter 14, page 159. And for the beginning of this, there was a lot of wordiness when it came to Blair and how she described things, which, don't get me wrong, are very, very beautiful in nature. And in the beginning, I didn't really know how to like think about it, whatever, or just like understand it in that level. And then as I got further in and understanding who Blair was as a character, it made complete sense as to why she throws around some of these like wordier things or things that not a lot of people say in their vocabulary, and very poetic timing and such. And I can really see all of the influences that she had with Marty McFarlane and Emily Henry as well. And it's just one of those things where it is cute, it is fun, but also at the same time, I'm not really finding myself caring too much about the characters, if that makes any sense. And I'm not trying to be mean whatsoever. I'm just very 50-50 on my thoughts. Like, if I were to rate this right now, I think it would be anywhere from like a 3 to a 3.5. It's not the worst book I've ever read, but I've definitely read a lot better romances in my opinion. And I will say, I am liking the fact that it is mostly following Blair and her story, and her and Declan's like little thing is kind of off to the side because it's not a complete romance pretty much. Like, it takes a lot of like elements from what I saw with Great Big Beautiful Life, except you're just only following one storyline of that story, of this story. And I'm not gonna lie, I am very, very confused on this, but I am still liking it. I'm still having a good time. I've been like teetering back and forth between reading it and listening to it. Earlier this morning, I read a little bit of it before I got out of bed. And then as I was getting ready, and listened to it as well in the audiobook format. And the audiobook is good. I don't mind the audiobook narrator off the top of my head, and it makes perfect sense for like Blair. But I'm not too sure really where I stand too much with this. I have so many mixed feelings on this, but I think I'm going to shut up and I'm going to try and finish this today, since I think according to the audiobook, I had like 5 hours and some odd minutes left. But if I mostly just like read this just as is, then I can probably get through it a little bit quicker, if anything. And I'm so curious to see where this is going to go. We did get the conflict as to what happened, but I don't think we got all of it yet. But maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't fucking know, to be honest. But the way that they kind of like stopped being friends and broke up in the past, it makes complete sense for the age range that they were and how they went about it. Like, they didn't go about it in the best way as possible, which you can't really fault them. They were kids with so many fears and so many just like things on the line that they weren't even thinking about that. I don't have anything else really to say about this book. It is pretty good and such. I do like seeing the little nods to the different things that are mentioned within the books, like this bird. And I'm interested to see where this comes in, like the love letter type of thing, but I'm not too sure. I'm probably going to take you guys along with me as I finish like the book. Maybe if I have like 50 pages left or some odd number of pages left, we shall see. That's pretty much it. I'll come back to you guys. I'll probably do a time lapse of me finishing this book, and then you will get my final thoughts. And then I think we're gonna end the video after we read Just Friends, because that's what I'm feeling personally, at least. So yeah, I will see you guys a little bit later. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Okay, friends, as you guys just saw, I just finished reading Just Friends by Haley Pham, and I'm gonna say solid 3 stars. And the reason why I think it's mostly just like a 3 stars, like solid, no like 0.5, 0.25, nothing, is because the overall message I loved, especially with the grief. I loved the way that Haley talked about grief in this and how universal it is. Like everybody experiences grief, but they feel it in different ways. And you could clearly see that with Blair and how her and her mom were having like different reactions to Lottie dying, essentially, you know? And it's one of those things when she was talking about grief and how it also related to the story as well. It was something that was very gorgeous, very lovely, very, very sweet. And I also love Blair and Declan together. I think they're very cute. I don't think I really disliked their romance whatsoever. I guess I wish I would have gotten a little bit more. And by what I mean a little bit more, we got a little bit of their past life, like together when they were in like middle school and high school and things like that. And I thought that was really, really sweet. But I wish we had gotten maybe a little bit more of how much their lives intertwine. I mean, we saw that a little bit, but I feel like we could have gotten a little bit more, and maybe I would have rooted for them a little bit more. I still rooted for them in the end, but also at the same time, something was missing. And one of the things that I've been seeing so many people talking about this, and it can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing. It makes sense as to why Blair uses so many quote unquote absurd like ways of describing things, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making sense with this, but it always like something with it was in the beginning where I could just immediately tell that was like her way of like communicating. Where was it? It was like the tectonic plates or something like that. Something was shifting with tectonic plates and like the feeling personified in my stomach, which, you know, that can happen. I'm trying not to be mean with this, but as someone who has a degree in creative writing, it's kind of funny almost looking at this and looking at the kind of like poetic prose writing of this as they are like new adult kids, like Blair recently graduated from college and things like that, like they're like in their early 20s or whatever. And I think that, again, they're very sweet. I love them. They're very, very sweet. But I will say one part in the end that I think was supposed to make me cry didn't really make me cry. I almost kind of found myself kind of skimming through in a way. I'm not trying to be mean when it comes to that, but with this book, it is a solid 3 stars. And thinking back on some of the other books that I've given 3 stars this year, I think the last one that I gave a solid 3 on is Nora Goes Off Script. And I will say Just Friends is much better in my opinion than Nora Goes Off Script. So it's definitely like on the higher end of a 3, but I don't think I could give it a 3.2. Maybe I could give it a 3.25, but like it's not really a 3.5 quite yet, but it's just one of those things where it's like when I look at it, I'm like, oh, that was cute, but I don't think I'm gonna remember all of the intricate things when it comes to this book and when it comes to their journey as boyfriend and girlfriend, essentially. I think that's all my thoughts on Just Friends by Haley. I did enjoy it. It's a 3 star. 3 stars for me are not a bad rating whatsoever. It is a really, really good rating for me. And yeah, I do plan, if Haley does end up like making more books, I do want to read more of her stuff because it is very intriguing. Plus, I'm also interested to see if she creates more books when her voice is actually going to come out, because I could feel her voice a little bit as an author, but I couldn't quite like depict it from, oh, this is influence from Emily Henry. Oh, this is influence from like Kaylee Ann Bradley or whatever, or things like that. So if Haley does come out with another book, I want to kind of compare the two and kind of see where her voice is in her different works. So yeah, that's it on Just Friends. And then I think that's going to be the end of the video. Yeah, that is going to be the end of the video, because after this, I'm going to record the start of another video that you will see in the upcoming weeks or whatever. But to do a little recap of the books that we read this week for my book club books, the first one was from my readathon, which was read along series, and that was A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. What did I say that was? 3.75, I think. I think I did say it was a 3.75. Yeah, it's a 3.75 in my personal opinion. It was good. Am I going to continue on with the series? Maybe. I might maybe do the second book, but if the second book doesn't really like intrigue me as much after reading it, then I probably won't continue on with the series. And then of course I just told you that Just Friends is a 3 to 3.25. My brain is really just thinking it's a solid 3, but on the upper end, not to add on like the 0.25 or whatever. So that one's a solid 3. And yeah, that's basically going to be the end of the video. So thank you guys again for watching. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and comment down below. If you don't know what to comment down below, tell me if you are a part of a book club and what book you are reading. Again, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications. I upload every Sunday and every other Wednesday. Today is a Sunday upload and such. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I truly hope you guys have an amazing day, week, month, and year. See you later, friends.